Hey folks, welcome back. Going to be looking at the second part of the little fox beanie I was doing the other day. Basically, I'd like to polish this off quick and get on to the next one. Ideally, I would want to have several of them ready for Christmas time, as soon as that opens up. Yeah, so I've got three main layers here. One is my dark outline, and on that dark outline I also have some of that color to add to the lighting, or the effect of having a kind of an upper area, like an area that's got that perspective, that 3/4 perspective. It's very subtle, don't really notice it much without looking at the final image. I have the color, which is just several colors. I think there's, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 colors most in this particular image. And then on top of that, I've got my shading, which adds a couple more color layers. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 more colors. Yeah, just 4 more colors in this one, because we've got the two for the orange with the shading, and 2 for the white part at the bottom here with the shading. The black is already black, and the orange on the ears is already there. Okay. So yeah, that's the original frame. Let's now do a side frame as well. Basically, we're going to be doing most of the work on this base layer initially. I will just quickly grab a color dot and drop it in here for these ears. I'm going to kind of cheat, and this is very common for hats. I'm basically going to just copy paste this into my side frame. And it's not that it's just automatically going to go this way. I'm just using it for reference. I'm going to be looking at the depth on the hat, so where those objects are going to show up, as well as where we want, various highlights on there. So like, for instance, horizontally, we're going to want something similar along these lines. But I'm going to look at the shape of the newbie's head too. So when you see here, he has an ear. He's got kind of like a round head going on, and I think that to give this hat a little bit more character, instead of making it just a straight across on the back here, I'd like to have a little bit of an angle, like have it kind of come in, so it comes around the front of his head and then drifts down towards the back side. So I'm going to switch over to my pencil. I'm going to up it a little bit. Let's say 4. And I've got a position for the nose. So maybe I will actually quickly just cut that and bring it over to the front here. So I know that the nose is going to be about there. I will also do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to move it up a little bit for the eye. Copy paste, or cut paste in this case, and I'm going to move the eye just to the above the player's eye, or the head here, but now I'm going to play a little bit more with the color here. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down, and it's going to come up to the same at the top. Okay, so up here, I know that my white is going to go down at least this far. Maybe a couple pixels up from there, but basically similar to what we see in the initial frame over here. Interestingly, if we look in the initial frame, we've got the eyebrows way down, whereas on the right-hand frame here, we have the eyebrows. They're basically going to get caught up in this here if we bring this straight across. But there is a space between. Okay, so what I will do is I will go with not the visual template, but I'm going to go based on the appearance of the graphic here. So I'm going to take these guys up one, basically. Up one to there, so that we have that little bit of space between where the eyebrow is and where the forehead is and the base of the hat. Okay, so from there now I'm going to look at trying to make this a little bit more reasonable along the end. I do have a very gentle slope here. I want to kind of increase the slope a little bit more, especially near the back to here. Seeing there, it looks pretty good at that point. Another thing I want to consider is the orange at the top here. I'm going to want to make it look a little bit like a fox. And they do typically have pretty long snouts. So maybe this little rounded bit is a little hair going on there, but we can kind of pull this down. No, didn't like that one. I'm going to make it a little bit more severe. And that's looking pretty good. I know it's supposed to be a little beanie, but I think that making it look a little bit more like a fox has really added to the character of the image, especially when we get some texture on here. It's going to look pretty cool. Okay. The other thing that I might want to do is actually change the first one and give them little tufts on the side, but let's see. Okay. So, I'm going to bring this orange down as well as this layer of white. So I might as well just cut this. Cut and paste. Cut, paste. That looks pretty good. I think the next part I'm going to take a little bit less from the end there. Take this much only. And give it a little bit of a slant there. Looking pretty good. Okay. It's kind of a shame just to cover all this in orange, but I guess eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to have to, I mean, this is really the time. I have to switch down my brush and come in for a little bit more detail here. So these guys are 2 by 2, and then 1, and then 2, and then 1, and then 2. So I'm kind of trying to follow the pattern. I have a little tufts of 2. So this is my knit, like my knit pattern on the previous image. Basically with the reference it was either a knitted or crocheted or something. There was a little beanie. And what I'm doing here is setting it up so that we have that same knit pattern. So there's two little fluffy spots that are coming up, and then one where the knit goes in, and then 2, and then 1. And then here it's showing as 2 on this same layer, and then up 1, but it doesn't come up 1 because it's a down spot. It's a place where there was a knit, or where it was knit. So if that makes any sense. Beyond that, then there's the same pattern, and the same thing happens again where we have 2 showing down, and then it comes up 1. Basically just trying to repeat that same kind of an effect all the way along. Okay, from there, I'm going to take this, I'm going to make his little nose right there. Pop this out, make it a little rounder. I think I'm going to make this a little bit less like a forehead and a little bit more like a hat here. See what we can do. Okay, looks a little bit more like a cap, a little bit more like a fox at the same time. I think that's a win. Okay, right there, we're going to do the same thing. Keep this guy down. And you're getting a little bit of the shape on the head below there as well here. Okay, so it comes to my attention that there's a couple of places here where it's not quite working. One is this really jagged corner right here. So I'm going to try and soften that up a little bit. And in doing so, probably look at increasing these here a little bit. Pulling the slope out so that when we zoom out, it's going to be a little bit softer. It does look a little bit fluffy, especially in this area here. The other thing that I noticed is that there's this jaggy right here, so I can potentially bring it up. I'm going to use my eraser and kind of slope this, I guess. Here, let's pull these guys back. And exaggerate that a little bit. Okay, I think I went one too far there. And I know it looks like it's a jaggy, but I think I'm going to keep that. I think I'm going to stay with that, and it's a bit of a bold choice because it looks a little odd in relation to the rest. Maybe there is another fix here. So if I take this one further, no, can't do that. If I pop these guys up, maybe I can take this back a little bit. Now he's got a funny dent in his head. Alrighty. I'd rather avoid it being just a straight line up. But I mean, sometimes that's what you gotta do. Oh, you know what? I know what I'm gonna do. I'm going to increase and make it rounder. So I'll do 2 up. Because this way it's gonna look like more like a plush hat. I'm forgetting that I'm making a plushy hat. So I think that's the solution right there. And it's gonna look like a little round nose. Except for maybe about here. Bring that forward a little bit, and I think there's the solution there. Is that now it looks like a little round hat? Yeah, happy with that. Cool. Okay. There's this fixed. And then down here, maybe that is okay down below that I can actually add that 1 pixel or 2 pixels at the bottom here that are going to bring in that little, it almost looks like his muzzle underneath. And I think I will pull that back one. And I'm also going to bring this right here to soften the edge, and the same thing I'm going to do right here so that we have that same effect coming along on this transition, as well as this transition from one layer to another, to make it look the same throughout. And I think that those pixels there are actually required, that we have those extra 2 because it makes it look rounded at the end here. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that so far. And seeing as though we have quite a bit of previous work on this, basically I can just copy this the same way. So I can take this Fox base, copy paste, and then I can also paste it in the outline layer. Bring it along and match the location, and then I'm going to go up 1 and paste, down 1, left 1 and paste, and basically just paste all the way around. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of that, so I'm going to have to cut and paste the same thing again. And now I'm going to use my fill bucket. Oh, actually, you know what? I missed a step there. I actually have to grab my dark color, which again I should mention is not allowed to be black. So I have to actually pull it up. I'm going to fill bucket, and I'm going to fill bucket my previous one. So what I'm doing here, I realized that I had used a full black color in my Graal image, which is a no-no. They use full black, like a 000 color value for transparency in the game. So here what I need to do is actually use a color value that's not full black. So I'm going to do the whole selection here, see where that leaves me on my color layer. Ideally it should be a little bit rounder than that. That's okay. I'm okay with the way that the rest is working, but there's this little tiny tick up here that's not quite what I want. And I'm going to Oh, I'm on my outline layer. Whoops. I'm going to grab that color there and fill in the places on my image where I want that shadow to be lighter. I'm just going to include all the way around the ear, up at the top here, down to here. I'm going to leave a couple of pixels in there for the corner. Basically, that there's a couple of light pixels on the outside, and then there's some darker ones in here, I think. Do I have a third color there? I do. I do have a lighter color up at the top here. Cool. So I can make good use of that as well. And I'll transition. So there's two low color value, then a lighter color value, then one higher than that. I'll do the same thing up here. Kind of trying to highlight his head a little bit, and then when we get further down away from the top, I'll start using these other colors as well until it's just dark at the bottom. Okay, cool. So there we go. There's our colors. There's our outline layer. And the next part is going to be grabbing the texture. So this texture is, again, just black and white. I've used the default black and the default white, but because I'm using opacity, so I've changed my opacity, it allows me to basically alter these colors by increments instead of making it like instead of using color values and drawing onto my image, I can change it and make it black and white, and I can just highlight the places that I want to have darker or lighter and then adjust the opacity to be able to basically highlight those. So I can actually take a reference from over here. I can see that I have, you know, there's a pattern here that I've got going on that I developed in the last episode, and I can kind of do the same thing over here. Basically, we've got two down and a diagonal, and that's going, let's see, with opacity at 30 there. It's going in these little grooves here for the most part. So I'm going to take these same little grooves, color in like this, and I'm going to use it similarly to the previous one. So I'm going to start in that little groove, come down a little bit, and go that way. The place where I'm going to run into trouble, probably going to be those areas where I had kind of taken a shortcut and just cleaved off the side. But let's have a look and see where it goes. Yeah, right about here. It's looking a little funky, but that's okay. When we get the opacity changed, I'm going to do the same thing actually all under the nose here. And then I'm also going to do my shading with this. Yeah, so when we change the opacity, it actually becomes a lot less obvious what's going on. And the other thing is that we're working at a very low resolution right now. When we kind of pull it back out, we're looking at roughly 200% for like the comparable visibility in Graal. So like the changes that we make at this layer, you know, it's there. Even a single pixel can make a big difference, but the visual impact of that single pixel in a moving, like in an animated sprite is pretty minimal. Okay, so here I'm working with 1 pixel to the left of those little slots that I'd used. Oh, and there's a couple of these slots that have no colors in them. That's interesting. Maybe I'll just fill those in now. I don't know if I'd missed those. I can't recall if I'd missed those or if it was intentional, but let's pop them in there. Okay, the other thing that I notice here is I've got a full layer along here. So let's follow that. That's where the crimping of the two different kinds of fabric is showing, basically. Okay, so the next part here is these same black dots. That's going to be one up off of the base here. and then basically one to the right on these images here. So right there. I'm going to look at one right here, up one, and one to the right. Basically all the way along. And then I'm also going to take the white and do the same thing, but it's coming off the top of these little lines down below. Okay, and then above there we've got these double ones. I think I'm going to erase this guy here. Doesn't really work with the rest of them, but I will keep him over there. Okay, so I have one here, and then there's a 2, and a 2 right here. There's a 2 there. And because we're giving him, I think he's got a little bit of a cheek going on here. But right here is where we're going to run into trouble, because when we look at it, the low light underneath is actually coming through. So let's make sure we got that right first on our eyeball. Give him a little bit of extra character on this one because it's from the side. And basically what's going to happen in my mind is this should cancel out. So we have a highlight there, but then we also have a low light coming in the same spot. So we're just going to not highlight or low light that guy. And then right there, and let's slide over a little bit more. And we have another spot there where it should be, so let's go for it. I'm going to also take a bit of a cue from this side, so we have one here, and then there's a dark one and a light one all the way up. Maybe right there. We'll keep the second one. Or no. Maybe right here. Right there. I think that looks good, especially because we're making the front a little bit more rounded on this side. It's a little cutesy. Okay, so now we have a black dot on the next one for our pattern, the same pattern. So the black dot is in line with the vertical 2 down below. So we'll keep that pattern across the same way. And basically what I'm doing here is just trying to, as close as I can, mimic the original pattern so that it looks like the same hat from both sides, if that makes sense. So if I'm looking at it from the side, that I want it to be essentially the same hat. It shouldn't look like, you know, one thing on one side and something else on the other. I'm looking at having the same visual effects going on here. Yeah, we'll do one there too, why not? Maybe right there. Okay, and then we have a black layer where it's got one towards the eye. And this is, you know, pretty tedious doing the individual pixels. You probably could get away with some of it being, you know, cut and paste, but you still are going to have to come in and do some detail on it eventually. So might as well carry out one by one. Save yourself some time. Yeah. This is already looking pretty Christmassy. You got these little fuzzy warm hats going on. What else? What else is gonna happen? Yeah, I think the woodland creatures is probably the ones I'm gonna do. I have some templates for fish and other little critters as well. Okay, but I'm probably gonna do the creatures that look fuzzy as opposed to the creatures that would be something else. At least initially. Okay. So I have the eye on this side as well. I'm going to pull my opacity on my shading and have a look at the below. So I do have a relatively well shaded section here. I think it goes up to about there. And then it comes along up under here. And this is not the texture or shape of his ear, but it's more the texture and shape of where the light is hitting the fabric, if that makes sense. And it's actually something where we have to consider that on this side, so when we're looking at the, at the front, the light is going to hit it in one way, but when we look at it from the side, it's actually going to be more defined. We're going to have additional requirement for some shading on this side. So I'm going to kind of exaggerate it a little bit from the original one, because likely what we would see is something more, we're going to be looking at it more from the angle of having a shadow coming down from direct on top. The place where the shadow is going to show up is a little bit more pronounced. I'm also going to pull this orange just a little bit in, and maybe up the side a little bit too, so that when we're looking at this ear, it becomes a little bit more apparent that what we're seeing is actually the side. I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave 2 spots. Actually, you know what? Let's leave a little bit more than that. I'm going to leave 2 and 2, so 4 spots without any color. And then I'm going to pop a at the top of both of those, and on the next one down, I'm going to put a highlight. So what that's going to do is it's going to appear to be a little bit more present at the top. See if it looks okay. No, there's a couple of things that are wrong right now, and I'll have to go in deep to fix that. So I have an issue with this outline. Basically, these 2 pixels here do not look proper in the side view. Or maybe they were looking and they were actually hinting at something more that we should do, which is to pull it out one further. I think I like pulling it out one further more. And I'm going to go for the fox base down here, take my orange color and ramp up the orange color on the side. Basically pull it all the way around. And on the top up here, I need to get in there a little further. This black is also going to come out and become a little bit more pronounced at the top. Okay, and this I was being a little squeamish with my color at the top here, and I'm going to completely undo that. So I'm going to go back into my shading. I'm going to erase this shading here. And basically what I want to do is I want to create an even lighting effect that's going to go around the top or the tip of this ear. And I also am going to probably want to, even though in the original there was black at the front, I think that I like having a little bit of a sliver of this orange coming around, so I'll probably come up the side there too in the end. Not going to do it right now, just keep this as it is and keep it in mind. But at the top of this ear here, I digressed there, I'm going to do all the way down the side. I'm going to do an even lighting effect, and I'm going to do the same thing over here too. Okay. Just to try and accentuate that top of that ear, so it looks like a little tuft of orange fuzz at the top there. And maybe I will pull 1 pixel out of that. I see there's just this 1 pixel here that doesn't look quite right. Okay, now I'm going to take these guys over here. I'm going to basically copy my pattern again, go back to having the same pattern across the top. I think I have to do the dark one next here. And the dark one is basically just 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 1 pixel across the top. Like that. And when we're getting up to the top here, what we're actually winding up with is just 1 more white layer. But what we're going to have to do is kind of improvise a little bit on that, I think. And I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to pull the whole white layer up on the top here and erase that right there. And I'm going to pull this down to 30. My original opacity was 30, and it's not going to make too much of a difference, but I'll get to see what I was actually looking at originally here. Yeah, looking pretty good. There's one place I'm not too happy with, which is right underneath the ear here. I think that I'm going to cut these guys away. Maybe this one here. And then I'm going to instead accentuate the darkness in that area so that it has a little bit more texture instead of making the white more prominent. I'm giving the darkness a little bit of space in there. Yeah, looking pretty good. I think I would even like to have some kind of darker spot in here. I'm tempted to use my outline layer like this guy and just bring this in a couple of pixels. But let's see what it looks like. Need the orange back on that one there. Yeah, actually, the more that I tweak the ears in the side view, the more I want to just completely cut out the ears in the front view. There's a lot going on there that is probably not great. Yeah, so gotta do what we gotta do here. Okay, so I'm going to change my outline on this one, just this 1 pixel here. And then I'm going to enhance the outline around the edge of this ear right here. Oops, I'm in base mode. Gonna pull that color, add it around here. And while I'm doing that, I want to bring my orange color on my base out a little further. Which then means I have to pull my shading out a little further. But now I have nice chubby little ears, which I'm much happier with. I'm much happier with the appearance of that little chubby ear rather than the other one. And I think I'm even going to double down on that and lean into it a little bit more. Bring in my orange color on my base layer. Up the side, like I said I was gonna. Looks pretty cute. I don't know, guys. I might have to take the actual hat on this one and not the cache that you can make. So basically, when you make these hats, you can either take compensation in the possession of the hat. So you can either get the hat if it's accepted, or if you're, a little bit more interested in having the money, if you're a little broke in game, then you can take 10,000 Graal. So I might have to just take this hat if it gets in. He's looking pretty cute. Do I want that sharp corner there? I think I'm going to skip the sharp corner. I'm going to bring in the shading up till there. And I'm going to go one further up so it's a little rounded. Oh, I'm in the wrong color. Right there. Make it a little bit more rounded. Cool. Okay. Looking good. Now the only thing I have to do is destroy my other half of this here. flip the whole thing over. Did I add to shading? I think I did. Might as well just take the whole thing. Might as well take the whole thing. Take the whole thing. There we go. So copy, paste, flip. I got all the shading. And copy the base. There's the base, and then copy the outline as well. Sweet, there he is. So it's tempting at this stage to want to merge everything down. I'm going to keep this one separated though, because I've got a lot of that detail where I'm looking at these, the highlights and stuff from the knit pattern, and I don't really want to create more layers again and do the whole process. I'm pretty happy with where it's sitting right now. I might accentuate the eyes a little bit later on, but that is what it is for now. Okay, I will probably tool this a little bit between now and the next time, but hope you guys are enjoying, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.